my stomach.
This meeting is called to order. I'd like to welcome everyone this afternoon. For roll call, Councillor Ham and Deputy Mayor Andrews have sent their regrets. We'll now take a moment of reflection and respect, please. Thank you. Confirmation of the agenda.
This is moved by Councillor Barber, seconded by Councillor Charlton, that Council adopts the agenda for the meeting of August 10th, 2022 as presented.
Okay, are there any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? The next item up is delegations and public meetings. And this evening we do have a public hearing under the Planning Act. Could you please read the resolution, Josh?
This is moved by Councillor Chapman, seconded by Councillor Oslich, that Council do now commence a public meeting at 5:31 p.m. to receive input from the public with respect to the report Planning 1022, Planning Evaluation Report, Applications for Official Plan Amendment OPA 22, and Zoning Bylaw Amendment 222, and this is respecting 448 Talbot Street East.
Okay, all those in favor? And that's carried. This public meeting is taking place under the Planning Act 1990 as amended. At this public meeting, Council will hear public representations regarding an application for official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment at 448 Talbot Street East, detailed in Staff Report Plan 10-22. Please note that those who do not provide comment or written submission prior to the decision of the appropriate authority may not be afforded the right to appeal to the Ontario Land Tribunal. Council will hear comments in the following order. The Manager of Planning and Development, who will be presenting the staff report, the applicant or agent, members of the public, staff follow-up and question and answers. Can the Manager of Planning and Development please provide the report? Hi, Heather.
Thank you, Mayor French. Good afternoon, Mayor French, members of council, town staff, and members of the public that are here this afternoon. We are gathered here this afternoon to hold a public meeting for a proposed official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment for a property located at 448 Talbot Street East. The purpose and effect of the applications is to redesignate and rezone a portion of the subject lands from arterial commercial to low density residential, and from highway commercial C3 to residential type 1B, R1B, to facilitate a residential lot severance for low density residential use. These applications are also associated with 2 severance files that are on hold pending the outcome of these proposed applications. It's important to note the balance of the subject lands, which contain a single detached dwelling, will remain designated arterial commercial and zoned highway commercial C3. Figure 1 in my report shows a location, an aerial photograph showing the location of the subject lands at 448 Talbot Street East. Figure 2 within my report shows the proposed lands to be redesignated and rezoned. As part of this application submission, a planning justification report prepared by Laverne Kirkness and Simona Razoon by SBM Limited, and a servicing feasibility report prepared by Ben McCart and Ryan Froese from CBM Limited were submitted with the applications. In terms of the planning evaluation and analysis, reviewed the provincial policy statement, and I can conclude that the proposed official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment are consistent with the provincial policy statement. Next, I also reviewed the County of Elgin official plan, and I can conclude that the proposed official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment conforms to the county's official plan. In terms of the Town of Elmer official plan, I reviewed the applicable policies that apply, and I can also conclude that the proposed official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment conforms to the official plan, subject to the official plan amendment coming into force and effect. In terms of the Town of Elmer zoning bylaw, I reviewed the applicable zoning provisions that would apply. It's important to note that the lands are zoned C3 highway commercial, and the C3 zone permits commercial uses exclusively and does not permit a residential use as a primary use. Planning staff are recommending that the proposed severed parcel be rezoned as per this application that is before you this afternoon to facilitate the residential lot severance. Therefore, the proposed zoning bylaw amendment will be in compliance with the zoning bylaw, subject to the proposed zoning bylaw amendment being implemented. In terms of consultation, the application was circulated internally and to applicable commenting agencies. No comments of concern were received at the time of writing this report, and I can also state that no comments were received at the time of this presentation this afternoon. In terms of applications circulating to neighboring property owners, no comments were received at the time of the writing of this report, as well as at this public meeting. There are no financial impacts. Recommendation, it's the planning staff's opinion that the proposed official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendments are consistent with the provincial policy statement and conform to the counties of Elgin's official plan, and recommend that the request for the official plan amendment be adopted and the zoning bylaw amendment be approved, subject to no concerns being raised through any oral or written submissions being received since the writing of this report and at the public meeting this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you, Heather. Is the applicant or agent in attendance?
Yes, my name is Simona Rasanu, and I'm the agent for John and Kyle, for Susan, Kyle, and John Meekman for the applicant. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can, Simona. Welcome, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. So good afternoon, Your Worship and councilors, and thank you for your consideration of the official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment before you here tonight. I just want to share my screen and okay. So hopefully you can see that this is the severance sketch that we submitted as part of the application. Can everyone see that? Owen, can you see that? Or do I have the wrong screen? I'm using two screens here, so I'm not sure which screen it's showing up.
Hi, Simona. We can't see the screen. Could you
You
share
can.
sharing again?
Okay. Okay, share screen. Okay. Can you see it now? Can you see the sketch?
Yes, yes, we can.
Okay.
Simona.
Okay, thank you. So this is a sketch that was submitted as part of the application package. So I'll be referring to this as I provide some brief comments. So I want to thank municipal planning staff for the report just summarized by Heather James. I agree with the recommendation to approve the zoning bylaw amendment and adopt the official plan amendment. I just want to take this opportunity to highlight a few key points. So the applicant is proposing land severance of the existing residential property at 448 Talbot Street, which is a through lot with access to public streets, to create a new residential dwelling fronting on Elk Street. So the new residential lot is identified as the parcel to be severed on this sketch. The existing residence will continue to function in its current form and will be included in the parcel to be retained. No changes are proposed to the retained parcel lands. The existing subject property is designated arterial commercial in the Ulmer official plan, as Heather mentioned. Residential land uses are not contemplated, and an official plan amendment is required to permit the development proposal. And it is important to note that we're not asking to redesignate the entire property, just the portion of the property corresponding to the severed, corresponding to the parcel to be severed, and the parcel to front of Elk Street, which is a residential street. So the proposed official plan land designation for this severed parcel is low density residential. And similarly, with respect to the zoning bylaw amendment, the subject property is zoned C3 or highway commercial zone. The existing dwelling is considered legal non-conforming. A ZBA is required and was submitted since a single detached dwelling, which is proposed to be on the severed parcel fronting Elk Street, is not considered a permitted use in this zone. And again, we're only asking to rezone the proposed severed parcel and not the entire property. The proposed new zone for the severed parcel would be a residential type 1B or R1B, which is compatible with the zoning on the surrounding lands fronting Elk Street. On this sketch, you will also notice a proposed 4-meter wide easement on the parcel to be severed. So I want to explain that in case you're wondering what it's about. The existing dwelling has sanitary service provided from Elk Street across the existing rear yard of the subject property. And as such, if the proposed severance is approved by the Elgin County Land Division Committee, an easement across the lands fronting onto Elk Street would be required to ensure that the servicing to the existing dwelling is protected. So that's why you see an easement highlighted on this sketch. So to summarize, the development proposal before you tonight represents a modest form of intensification within an established settlement area that would optimize existing infrastructure and create a new residential lot fronting Elk Street that is similar to the existing residential uses on this street. So thank you for your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you, Simona. And if we do have questions later on, we will give you those questions. We're just going to proceed with our way that we do this. So the next item up is if there are any members of the public in attendance. And I don't believe there is anyone here.
Yes, there is.
Oh, is there? Sorry.
Yeah, John Beekman and Susan Kyle.
Okay, and you are the applicants?
Yes.
Did you want to speak to this?
No, I don't think so. I think things have been addressed. We just wanted to make sure that we were here.
Okay, no problem. And just, I know that Heather has mentioned that she didn't get any further comments, if I'm not mistaken. So we don't really have to cover that because you've already given us the full explanation of that. Now we'll move into council questions. So are there any questions from council for Simona or for Heather? Go ahead, Councillor Barber.
Thank you, Your Worship. Not a question, but a comment. The applications appear reasonable and approval would be justified.
Councillor Oslach, go ahead.
Yes, Your Worship. I simply approve this motion. And basically, we need houses in Elmer. Last winter, we were presented with a resolution for livable outbuildings and on residential lots. And I think this would comply with that. Alleviating the home crisis in Elmer. Thank you.
Any further comments from council? Okay. Well, if there are no further questions or comments, could you read the resolution, please, Josh?
Certainly, this is moved by Councillor Oslach, seconded by Councillor Barber, that council do now adjourn this public meeting at 5:43 p.m.
Okay, all those in favor? And that's carried, thank you. And the next resolution, please, Josh?
This is moved by Councillor Chapman, seconded by Councillor Oslach, that council 1022 regarding planning evaluation report applications for official plan amendment OPA 0122 and zoning bylaw amendment application ZBA 0222 respecting the property known as 448 Talbot Street East, and further that council of the town of Elmer adopts the proposed official plan amendment application OPA 0122 in accordance with bylaw 2722 and forward the necessary documentation and bylaw to the county of Elgin for approval, and further that council of the town of Elmer approves the proposed zoning bylaw amendment application ZBA 0222 in accordance with the bylaw 2822 and consider providing 3 readings to that bylaw 2822.
Okay, thank you, Josh. Are there any further questions or comments from council? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item up is we do have a delegation this evening. Carolyn Cron, Manager of Economic Development and Strategic Initiatives, is going to be presenting us some great information tonight. Welcome, Carolyn.
Thank you, Mayor French. So through you to council, I'm excited to be here today to introduce our new Elmer to help as you build a strong local economy and community. And once the presentation is up, I can go through the members of our team. Okay. Perfect, thank you. So as a lifelong resident of Elgin County, I am pleased to serve my community in the role of Manager of Economic Development and Strategic Initiatives. I have been with the county for about 6 years and have a background in library and legislative services. I am passionate about public service and am committed to working with our community partners to make Elgin County a great place to live, work, and play. And we're excited to introduce Delaney Leach as our business enterprise facilitator. She has joined us recently, and she brings with her years of public service experience from her role as executive assistant to MPP Jeff Urick. And Delaney has hit the ground running, and she's been out and about meeting with local businesses already. Another lifelong resident of Elgin County, Lindsay Duncan, is our tourism officer. She's been with the county since 2009 and has a passion for all things tourism in Elgin County. And she would love to connect with any of you to hear your ideas for tourism campaigns and promotions. So we have been working together over the past few months to develop a new strategy for the department. The concept behind this strategy is to change the way we do economic development in Elgin County. The new strategy centers around people, engaging with entrepreneurs, strengthening and leveraging partnerships, and responding to what we learn from them. As outlined in the strategy, there are 3 goals to this plan, and they are to re-engage, reimagine, and rebuild. We want to get out there and re-engage our local community, learn about their needs, let them know about the services we offer, and connect them to other relevant resources. So the goal is to build a network of entrepreneurs that can work together to grow their businesses and attract new investment to Elgin County. So based on what we learn, we will reimagine the services that we offer, and working in collaboration with you, our local municipal partners, we will rebuild how we do economic development in Elgin County. So the business enterprise facilitation position is one of the first parts of our new strategy, and with this position, we will cultivate and maintain a direct contact through regular community visits and partner referrals. So we will provide assistance in overcoming challenges and work with other agencies, our local municipal partners, and organizations to provide creative solutions. And we will also be assisting businesses in finding and applying for support, financial support. This includes our newly reimagined Elgin Incentives program, and we will also be using this position to leverage the county's networks and online presence to help showcase Elgin's business community. So Elgin County Tourism works on a number of different promotional campaigns throughout the year, and some of these include our official visitors guide, our Savor Elgin guide, our Lakeshore brochures, our Shop Elgin, Maple Syrup Trail, and others. Throughout the year, staff attend community events and trade shows to promote Elgin County as a great place to live, work, and play. And during the summer months, we also have 3 summer students who staff our 2 visitor centers, one in Port Burwell, one in Port Stanley, and then also an event student who's out and about in the community. So the department is working on increasing our communications with our local tourism operators and working on increasing our promotion of the shoulder season. So we have a lot to offer in the summer, but we also have a lot to offer in the fall and winter as well. So this is one of our priorities moving forward so that people see Elgin County as a 4-season destination. And I'm also very excited to share our Welcome Home video campaign with you today. So as part of this campaign, we have created 7 short videos that highlight each of our local municipalities. These videos will be featured on our social media throughout the summer, with a different municipality being highlighted each week. The theme of these videos is Welcome Home, and they focus on the experiences that make a place feel like home. With these videos, we would like to encourage residents to get back out in the community and explore their own backyards. So now I would like to share the video with you.
In the center of Elgin County is a little town with a big heart, where the main streets are lined with quaint boutiques and authentic local culture, and one-of-a-kind treasures are found in abundance. A place surrounded by spacious parks to let your playful side out. Where history comes to life in the many murals dotted throughout the town. An area that cherishes entrepreneurship and creativity, and where authentic cultures are celebrated through colorfully crafted local cuisine. A town with a proud heritage and a bright future. Discover why life is beautiful in Elmer. Welcome home.
So we will be sharing this video with staff so that you can use it on your website, play it at local events, or post it on your social media. So please check out our Facebook page throughout the summer to see the different municipal videos and also the different business highlights. So we'll be highlighting businesses from Elmer the week that we highlight this video, and it's debuting on our social media tonight, I think at 7 p.m. So we're very excited to be sharing that with the community, and we hope that everyone enjoys the video. And with that, I would like to thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today, and I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Carolyn. Are there any questions from council for Carolyn? Go ahead, Council.
There's a video almost brought tears to my eyes. 'Cause I was born and raised in Elmer, and it's a fantastic video. And the town municipality of Elmer went through 2 tough years, and this is really a boost to this town. I thank you immensely.
Thank you. We're really excited about what will be happening in Elmer in the future. It's really exciting.
Councillor Barber? Go
Thank
ahead.
you. It's nice to see the video celebrates the diversity of the area.
Yes.
Well done.
Any further comments from council? Well, thank you so much, Carolyn, for coming, and it's nice to have some in-person presentations. So enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you very much, Mayor French.
Resolution, please.
This is moved by Councillor Barber, seconded by Councillor Charlton, that the delegation from Carolyn Cron, Manager of Economic Development and Strategic Initiatives of Elgin County, regarding the Welcome Home video and economic development presentation be received as information.
Any further questions or comments from council? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Adoption of council and committee minutes. Minutes to approve.
This is moved by Councillor Chapman, seconded by Councillor Oslich, that council approves the following minutes. Regular meeting of council held on July 13th, 2022.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Minutes to receive.
This is moved by Councillor Charlton, seconded by Councillor Chapman, that council receives the following minutes. Meetings of Elgin County Council held on June the 28th and July the 12th, 2022.
Okay, questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Now, consent agenda.
This is moved by Councillor Charlton and seconded by Councillor Barber, that items 7.1 to 7.5 of the August 10th, 2022 consent agenda be received. Actions to be taken as noted.
Okay, we'll turn it over to council and see if you have any items you'd like to discuss. Okay, I don't see any hands up, so With no questions, comments, all those in favor? And that's carried, thanks. Now we'll move into action items. The first report up is Plan 11-22.
This is moved by Councillor Oslich, seconded by Councillor Charlton. That report Plan 1122 entitled Legal Non-Conforming Use Application Process be received for information, and that Council direct staff to present an amending bylaw to establish the user fee as outlined in the report Plan 1122, and further that Council approve the application process for consideration of legal non-conforming status and direct staff to prepare an application form to establish legal non-conforming use.
Okay, Heather, are you going to be addressing this item?
I can
If you would
Your
just give us
Worship.
a bit more information,
course.
just so there's a bit of an over.
Absolutely. Thank you, Your Worship. So just to provide a bit of background here, so town staff have been receiving a considerable number of requests to provide letters of opinion on properties that may have legal non-conforming status. And what's important to understand is what is legal non-conforming status or legal non-conforming use? What it basically means is that legal non-conforming uses are uses that at one point or another were established legally, and due to changes in our official plan and our zoning bylaws, those uses are no longer classified as legal within our planning documents due to changes, long-term changes in our planning documents and different things like that. It's important to note that lawfully existing uses may continue and cannot be zoned out of existence. However, it is important to note within the Ontario planning system that legal non-conforming uses, over the long term, it's intended that they are to cease to exist and eventually be replaced with uses that conform or somewhat better conform with our current policies and regulations. Legal non-conforming status, it's important to note that there needs to be a continued use without significant breaks upon a property, as well as an owner who demonstrates a desire to continue to use that property for a legal non-conforming use. So just to give you an example, one that's actually within our town here, we had a property where a dwelling unfortunately burned down. And the property owners are desiring to rebuild on the property. However, they don't want to build the exact type of dwelling. They want to build something different, something a little bit more suitable for the community. However, the impacts are very similar. In my opinion, as a planner, that would be classified as a legal non-conforming use. They had a desire to continue to use that property for that use, and unfortunately cannot use that dwelling due to fire. It's important to note that Section 45(2) of the Planning Act empowers the Committee of Adjustment, which is essentially the Committee of Adjustment for minor variances, to authorize the expansion of buildings and structures associated with legal non-conforming uses and allow for some minor variation or allow for more compatible continuation of legal non-conforming uses. So in terms of analysis, as I mentioned, the town staff, we've received a considerable number of requests to provide opinion letters on legal non-conforming, and we've been requested through a zoning certificate process. It's important to note this is not an ideal process, and the reasons for it is the fee that we currently charge for zoning certificate fees do not cover the amount of review and time involved in providing an opinion of legal non-conforming. It's also important to note that the lack of an application process results in the town not receiving comprehensive evidence in order to make a decision. And as well, the establishment of a formal review process will assist in avoiding unnecessary litigation in this area as well. It's important to note that the responsibility for establishing legal non-conforming use rests solely with the property owner. It is possible for the town to not have a process. However, it would require property owners to have to make court applications to establish legal non-conforming use. We feel as town staff that that's not appropriate. It's not providing the level of service that we need to be providing to our residents. Instead, staff are recommending the development of a town-managed legal non-conforming application process. With this request, applicants would have to provide similar supporting documentation to what a court would require. Staff would review the information with the chief building official making the final determination on the application. It's important to note that some municipalities do address legal nonconforming through zoning amendment applications. This can be costly. It provides additional time and constraints in the process, as well as there are times in which it's not appropriate to rezone the property for that use. As a result, staff are recommending a separate process and a fee that's a little bit higher than a zoning certificate fee in order to reach a similar outcome. It would allow for staff to have a better understanding of this process. The fees, we've set it at a fee of $200. We need to test this out to see is this fee appropriate, and we can review it on an annual basis to determine if this revenue is appropriate for this type of application. It's important to note that there are generally 3 circumstances in which the town may require the completion of a legal nonconforming application, and that would be for a committee of adjustment application when applying for a minor variance or a consent, for instance. A zoning certificate, for instance, when someone wants to sell a property, they request for a zoning certificate. We would need to have a legal nonconforming establishment on a property would be appropriate, as well as when we get into bylaw enforcement issues as well. So getting back to what I was saying, the owner would be responsible for providing all the evidence to support their request for establishment of a legal nonconforming use. Within my report, I've provided some examples of what we would request. And as well, I've been reviewing what other communities have been requesting as well. Other municipalities do have an established legal nonconforming use application process. So this is not uncommon whatsoever. My conclusion is that staff recommend that council approve the legal nonconforming and direct staff to prepare an application to establish legal nonconforming use. Thank you.
Thank you, Heather. Are there any questions for Heather from council? Councillor Barber?
Thank you. To Heather, just so I understand, and in brief verbiage, the Coles Notes version, the onus of responsibility is on the owner to prove non-conformity, correct?
Correct. And
Through the application.
Yes, and what we would do is through the application process, they would need to fill out the application form and provide the requested documentation that we would require, and we would verify it against the records that we hopefully would have for that property. Sometimes there's cases where we don't have records, but we would review all applicable planning documents and all applicable fire documents or building documents that we
Old
would
surveys.
everything.
Yeah.
We would review all the records we would have on that property in reviewing their application.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, welcome.
Councillor Oslech, go ahead.
Yes, Your Worship. To Heather, the fee is $200, correct?
Correct.
What's the normal fee? $65?
For a zoning certificate, it's $65. I do want to note that in order to prepare a zoning certificate, it's the amount of work that's required is quite minimal in comparison to this application process. So simply put, for a zoning certificate, I would receive the information on the address of the property. I would open up the zoning bylaw, take a look, determine it's zoned residential type 1B, and provide a letter to that effect. That's a minimal amount of time versus when someone's requesting for the town to provide an opinion that this is a legal nonconforming use.
So it's a lot more paperwork.
And reviewing of documents,
What
paperwork,
reviewing?
searching, as mentioned, going through old surveys, going through different records and reports we may have on that property.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, are there any further questions or comments? Councillor Charlton, go ahead.
Through your worship, yes, I totally agree with this. The last 4 years on council, I've been flabbergasted about legal non-conforming buildings, and I think it's about time that was kind of cleaned up. So, yeah, thanks for your effort.
Well, actually, this effort started before I came here. I'm just helping to continue it on to bring it to fruition. Thank you.
Councillor Chapman, did you have any comments? Okay, so with no further comments, and thank you, Heather, all those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. The next report is Fire 07-22.
This is moved by Councillor Chapman, seconded by Councillor Oslech. That report, Fire 0722, entitled Elmer Fire Department and that council authorize staff to proceed with ordering 5 portable radios and 1 charger unit for delivery in 2023 at a cost of $10,844.95.
Okay, I'm going to turn this over to you, Chief McComb.
Well, thank you, Your Worship. Good afternoon to council and the mayor. It's nice to be face to face with everyone. So this is kind of exciting. As I've identified to council before, the fire service is not immune to what's going on in the world for supply and price and demand. Of course, we experienced that through the purchase of our new fire apparatus, and we came out on the plus side of that. And I think this is a correct move to achieve the same results on the radio equipment. As you can see, it's not immune to what's going on in the world as well. I'm going to assume it probably has something to do with microchips and such. I'd just like to bring it to council's attention. This is a budgeted item in our 23 budget, but it aligns up for delivery quite nicely with the new fire truck coming into service. That's why I thought it important to bring this in front of council to start the procurement policy on the or procedure on this and try to get the radios for early 2023. So this report supports the goals and the objectives set out by our strategic pillars, and this report represents a pre-approval of a capital item that allow us for early procurement and delivery of these radios on time. And I would be happy to answer any questions that council would have for me at this time. Thank you, Your Worship.
Yeah, thank you, Chief McComb. Go ahead, Councillor Chapman.
Through you, Your Worship, I just have a comment. I think it's appropriate to do it now.
Yeah.
The prices are better and align with the new truck that's coming. We need communication, and there shouldn't be a delay in that. So
Absolutely.
I agree with this.
Councillor Charlton, go ahead.
Through Your Worship, to Chief, are the new radios compatible with the current radios?
Yeah.
So they're going to be able to talk back and forth. Are the chargers the same or?
Great question. Through Your Worship, great question. It turns out that the radios that we're currently using are set to be discontinued in the next 3 years. So we will be purchasing and transferring our radios to the new style that replaces this one, and this will be our first 5 radios, Councillor, to get us alignment of replacing, as we do a couple every year. Yes, they all interface with each other. There are issues sometimes when you have Motorola and a different brand. These ones all interface and are programmed quite easily, made by Motorola and approved for fire use. So, good question. Explosion proof as well, so we can use them for our special areas that we have in the municipality. So all that was taken into consideration as well. Thank you. Great question. Thank you.
Any further questions from council? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. And thank you, Chief McComb.
Thank you, Your Worship.
The next report is OPNS 14-22.
This is moved by Councillor Barber, seconded by Councillor Chapman. That report, OPNS 1422, entitled MECP Annual Water System Inspection Report, be received for information. And further, that council authorize town staff to post a copy of the inspection report on the town's website and make a copy available for viewing at Town Hall as mandated by Ontario Regulation 17003.
Okay, thank you, Josh. I'm going to turn this over to Rob now. It's a good report, Rob.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship, and good evening, Council. As Council is aware, annually we receive MECP inspection of our water service, and they have a list of criteria that they provide their inspection on. There's usually a sort of an item that they always kind of put under their wing every year. We had our inspection in May, and the Elmer water system got a 100% inspection. So I would also like to take the opportunity to thank, Mr. Bailey, Mr. Thompson, Mr. Lowen, and sort of all the operations staff for continuing to supply clean, safe drinking water to the residents of Elmer.
Thank you, Rob. Are there any comments or questions from council? Councillor Barber, go ahead.
Thank you, Worship. Just a quick comment. It's so easy not to get 100%. Grammatical errors or punctuation marks in the wrong place. And to come in with 100%. When the ministry is looking for errors in the documents, good stuff on the part of the town staff.
Any further comments? Go ahead, Councillor Charlton.
Through your worship to Rob, people don't realize the work that goes into making our water as great as it is, and I know the staff takes it really serious, and it is a very, very serious and important matter. So yeah, my hat's off to all the staff because they do a great job, and it's just so important for the community. Thanks.
Okay, any further comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. The next report is OPNS 15-22.
This is moved by Councillor Chapman, seconded by Councillor Charlton. That report, OPNS 1522, entitled Replacement of Existing Water Storage Facility Update, be received for information, and that Council endorse the preferred location of the new water tower within Ames Park, and further, that Council directs staff to proceed to issue a tender for the construction of the new water tower.
Okay, thank you, Josh. And I'll turn it back over to you, Rob, if you want to give us a bit more of an overview of this report.
Certainly, thank you, Your Worship. The purpose of this report is to seek approval for staff to continue this project and issue the procurement documents and issue a tender for the construction. As the council will recall, we've been very strategic on this project so far. We were out in front of the grant application. We initiated the EA. We did really well. There's no doubt in my mind that some of the moves that we've made so far are a direct resulted in us getting the grant application for sure. We've been ahead on this whole project, and I think it's probably important to continue to do that. I think that where other projects are now getting off the ground, we're sort of ahead of the curve, and we're in a position where we can get some drawings out the door and have a tender back, hopefully in front of the incoming council, so they can continue the work that's been done here. And I think what we're hearing from all of our suppliers, as the chief is finding out, the longer the delays are, the more prices are going to increase in the future. And you'll see there's been some variations in the, where the tower is going to go, or sorry, it's going to cost. But what you're seeing is the labor prices, or what we've heard from the suppliers, there's been a substantial increase as they re-sign their union agreements. So this year there's a $3 an hour bump. That's going to happen every year for the next 3 years. So building the tower 3 years from now is going to be much more expensive than it is now. So we think there's a strategic opportunity to probably continue what we've done, get it out for tender. I'm not asking you to award tonight, but the goal is to get that in front of the new council, the incoming council, and I think we continue the work that this council has done and put us in a great. I guess the other part of this report is sort of to review the EA results, but most of that council has been familiar with. I think you're mostly up to date. It's the southeast corner of the new industrial lands is the preferred alternative. That was led to us by the water modeling and confirmed by the archaeological and the geotechnical. I think council has been aware of most of that. The EA is currently out. We're suggesting it's safe to go to tender. This is a non-controversial project. We've not had a lot of interest in it from the public, to tell you the truth, and we don't expect much going forward. It has to be out there for a mandatory 30-day review appeal period. Somebody could say something, but I don't expect anything. I think it's safe to now move forward and get the tender ready to go and out the door. And maybe I'll ask Andy in case I've missed anything there.
Yeah, thanks, Rob. I just wanted to highlight for council that the change in estimated cost on this project was very much anticipated as a potential outcome by staff. So amounts were included in the 2021 water rate study to address this potential and to avoid any adverse impacts on water rates. Council can kind of read between the lines there, but there's a significant amount of strategy when you're preparing a grant. I can't say much beyond that, aside from the town having a plan in place to address the financing for a significant amount of time. The $3.66 million in grant funding secured by council for this project really is going to be a huge boon for the community. It's our expectation that this project will be able to proceed without changes to the water rate study that was presented in 2021. So even though you're seeing a different amount on paper, it's not going to impact anybody. And staff cannot make a definitive statement in that regard right at this time because we have to wait for that tender result to come in and we have to get the details on the debt financing for this project. So that will hopefully come in the first couple months of the new term of council. But overall, staff are confident that Elmer will continue to have a significant competitive advantage in terms of low water rates due to this water tower, and that will continue, for the next 50 years. So it overall is still a very good news story, but you kind of see the difference in numbers, and we don't want people to think it's sticker shock. We're on top of it. And with that, we'll try to answer any questions you might have.
Thanks, Andy. Questions? Okay, we'll start with Councillor Charlton and then Councillor Chapman. So go ahead, Councillor Charlton.
Through your worship, so initially we were going to build water capacity for 6,400 cubic meters, and now it's being suggested that we build for 7,400 cubic meters, just to ensure that we have enough for increased growth and industrial.
Yeah, I know Rob is probably the best to answer that, but it's a requirement that we have a bigger safety margin when our population exceeds 10,000. So when we hit that amount of people, we just need to have more capacity.
Okay, Councillor Chapman.
Through you, your worship. I think it's important that we stay on top of this. This is something that we've needed for a while. It's going to move our community forward. We can't have industry and we can't have residential growth without this item. So it's like Rob says, if we keep moving forward and we stay on top of it, if we could, any amount of money that we can save in the process will be well worth it in the end. Waiting another 3 years, who knows how much more it will cost. So I think it's time to put out the tender and move forward.
Any further comments? Go ahead, Councillor Barber.
Thank you, Your Worship. To Rod, I'm sure you've been in touch with some of the bigger players in this industry. Do they have openings for construction in the short term? Would you expect competitive bids?
Yeah, through your worship to Councillor Barber, we did meet as part of this process with some of the tank suppliers. That's where we were learning of the information about the union contracts that are now coming due and being re-signed. They did suggest that there's a window right now. They told us we're out in front of everybody else. Everybody else is just starting their EA. Remember, they just announced these grant applications. There can't be very many out there right now that are issuing a tender this close to the announcement, where they're going to see an influx they suspect is later next year. So yeah, that's why I think we're probably advantageous to put it out and get some prices.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Councillor Oslach?
Yes, your worship. To Rob or Andy, do you anticipate the 3.6 million grant? Where do you come up with the additional money through reserves or financing?
Through you, Mayor French, that's a good question. So when we did the water rate study last year, we foresaw that it was potentially going to cost more, and we also didn't account for the grant being awarded. So in that water rate study, there's actually $8 million towards this project. Essentially, we're in a position now where we have 8 million plus 3.6 million. So when you see the estimate there now of $8 to $10.5 million, we actually have over $11.5 million. But we aren't going to know exactly how that's going to play out until we get the debt financing worked out. In the initial water rate study, we did look at kind of aggressive debt repayment, a term of 15 years, which would I think even though this asset has a lifespan of 50 years or greater, we don't want to be carrying debt for very long. And when you look at the difference between, at that time, when you looked at the difference between 15 and 20-year debt, the additional payments that you were making for 20 years, it wasn't really a huge benefit to take a longer term. So that might change with interest rates now when we look at it again, and when Heather looks at it, it could be a different story and we could come to the next term of council, but still we're looking at a fairly short issuance of debt for this and an aggressive repayment. So that's why I say we're confident that it's not going to have an additional impact on rate users and on the rates that are already in place. But we just don't know yet if we're going to be able to actually reduce rates or if we're going to have to scooch them up a bit. That'll all play out later this year, essentially.
Councillor Barber?
Thank you, Your Worship. Follow up to Arthur's question. Long-term debt. In the event we enter into such an arrangement, would it be assumed that it would be an open contract rather than the last long-term contract that we were involved in, long-term payments, that it was locked in and we had no opportunity without penalty to close that? So, open terms?
I'd probably defer to Heather because I think we're talking to infrastructure.
We're looking at Infrastructure Ontario grants because they have an ability to have a construction loan, operating loan in the beginning of the term. So when Rob needs, to get money to lay the groundwork, the initial stages, we can open up a portion of the operating line, and it'll be at a lower interest rate. And then once we're firm on the price, we can lock it in and figure out the term. So we're looking at all those options through Infrastructure Ontario.
Okay, would you be locking into a term though, as compared to?
We would present all those options to council. Yeah.
Okay, are there any further questions or comments from council? Okay, seeing no more questions. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. The next item up is Report Finance 12-22.
This is moved by Councillor Barber, seconded by Councillor Chapman. That Report Finance 1222, entitled Request for Proposal, Banking Services, be received for information, and that Council direct staff to proceed to issue an RFP for banking services.
Okay. If you have anything further to add, it's pretty self-explanatory, Heather, but if there's something extra you think council should know?
Really, Your Worship, I just wanted to mention that we have no concerns with any of the services BMO has provided to date. This is just a matter of making sure that they're still competitive. So,
Thanks, Heather. Any questions or comments from council? All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. The next report is Finance 13-22.
This is moved by Councillor Charlton, seconded by Councillor Barber. That Report Finance 1322, entitled Banking Services Contract Extension, be received for information, and that Council approve extension of banking services with the Bank of Montreal until August of 2023 to allow for potential transfer to a new financial institution, and further that Council consider giving 3 readings to the bylaw authorizing the Mayor and the Clerk to execute a 1-year extension of banking services for the Town of Aylmer with the Bank of Montreal.
Okay, this is pretty self-explanatory as well. Do council have any questions, comments about this report? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. The next report is Finance 14-22.
This is moved by Councillor Oslich, seconded by Councillor Chapman. That Report Finance 1422, entitled Prudent Investor Standard for Municipal Investments, Analysis and Options, be received for information, and that Council direct staff to work with One Investment on the steps necessary to join the One Joint Investment Board as a participating municipality, and report back to Council with a new investment policy statement, the One Joint Investment Board agreement, and an authorizing bylaw for consideration by the 2022 to 26 term of Council.
Okay, I will turn this over to you, Heather. I'm sure you've got a few little things you'd like to explain to us.
thank you, Your Worship. Through you and to members of council, the report is fairly comprehensive. Andy did a lot of work on it, and we both met with the Prudent Investor team to just kind of see, what can we do in order to maximize our returns on our investment. So through no fault of the One Investment Fund itself, we haven't seen desirable returns from it. So we need to look at different strategies. So we believe that we would be the first one in this region to look at this strategy. We would be kind of trailblazing on that. Maybe need some help from our legal team at Elgin County to make sure that we're covered on everything. But we believe it would be a great opportunity for us to have as an option to invest possibly in this investment board. So basically, it allows us to currently we have an investment of purely government bonds. We don't, I don't know if any of you are in government bonds. I certainly am not. I haven't been in the last 10 years, or 20 years probably. So I'd like to have council look at this opportunity. It opens us up for, global bond, global equity portfolios, even Canadian equity portfolios. So we went from the One Investment Strategy looks at 3% of, what we're allowed to invest in. The Prudent Investment Strategy opens us up to possibly, a better return on our investment. Not saying that we're guaranteed on these returns, but at least we can look at the possibility of maximizing the returns that are available to us. So with that, we'll try to answer any questions.
Okay, thanks, Heather. Are there any questions for Heather? I might want to make a comment. I think that this is an amazing opportunity, and we've been restricted as municipalities for so long, and this really opens up something new, and I think it's great. So kudos to staff for looking into this. Councillor Oslet.
Yes, Your Worship. It's good to shop around.
It's good. Any further comments from anyone? All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. The next report is Clerk 34-22.
This is moved by Councillor Charlton, seconded by Councillor Chapman. That report, Clerk 3422, entitled Joint Elgin Compliance Audit Committee Appointments 2022 Recommendation, be received for information, and that Council endorses the appointment of Christine Scrimger, Andrew Wright, Daniel Ross, and Dr. Zachary Spicer to sit on the Joint Elgin Compliance Audit Committee for the period of 2022 to 26, and further that Council considers giving 3 readings to the bylaw confirming those appointments.
Okay, thanks, Josh. Did you have anything further to add to this report for Council?
Certainly, through your worship, but this is very much a housekeeping item. Council will recall establishing the committee and the terms of reference by bylaw several meetings ago. This is a mandatory requirement of the Municipal Elections Act that we do establish it. So now that the committee's been established, it's now time to appoint members. So we did, Elmer sort of taking the lead on behalf of Elgin County in managing this committee and recruiting members. We advertised in local newspapers, online, and we also reached out to former members of the committee. We have 2 returning members, so council will recognize Christine Scrimger, she's the town's auditor, and Andrew Wright, who's currently a practicing lawyer at Siskins Law Firm. So they're both returning, and then we've also received interest from and are recommending appointment of Daniel Ross, who's a retired lawyer, and Dr. Zachary Spicer, who's a professor specializing in local government. So both of the recommendations have experience on other compliance audit committees, and Zachary Spicer has experience working for the province in a municipal advisor type capacity. Yeah, that's really all I have to add, my French.
Okay, thank you, Josh. Are there any questions or comments concerning this report? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried. The next report is CAO 55-22.
This is moved by Councillor Oslich, seconded by Councillor Barber. That report, CAO 5522, entitled Memorandum of Understanding, Catfish Creek Conservation Authority, be received for information, and that Council delegate authority to the Director of Corporate Services to sign the agreement and memorandum of understanding between the Town of Elmer and the Catfish Creek Conservation Authority.
Okay, thank you, Josh. Andy, did you have anything further to add to this report?
No, Mayor French, just to highlight that it's Josh who would be signing it because of the potential for the restricted acts period. So we want to ensure that he's signing rather than council adopting a bylaw for that. So that's the main thing, but we don't anticipate this will change the relationship or the services with the Catfish Creek Conservation Authority.
Okay, thank you, Andy. Are there any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried. New business and matters of urgency. Okay. Reading of bylaws. So we have 3 readings.
This is moved by Councillor Barber, seconded by Councillor Chapman, that council gives 3 readings to the following bylaws. Bylaw 2722, being a bylaw to amend the official plan for the corporation of the town of Elmer, and that's official plan amendment number 21, respecting 448 Talbot Street East. Bylaw 2822, being a bylaw to amend the bylaw 5799, which is the zoning bylaw of the town of Elmer, and again that's respecting the property known as 448 Talbot Street East. Bylaw 2922, being a bylaw to appoint members to the Elgin Election Joint Compliance Audit Committee for the 2022 municipal election, and further, bylaw 3022, being a bylaw to authorize the signing of an agreement between the corporation of the town of Elmer and Niagara Crack Sealing for the provision of hard surface treatment services.
Thank you, Josh. Are there any questions from council? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried. Inquiries by members? Councillor Oslach, go ahead.
Yes, to Rob, your worship. I presented a motion last winter or fall for the traffic lights in John and Talbot. Has that study been concluded?
Through your worship to Councillor Oshlag, no, I think the last survey is scheduled for August. It either has just been done or is scheduled to be done, and then the consultant will have reviewed that intersection over 3 separate times. The reason we wanted an August one is we wanted to catch that vacation traffic because that's an impact down there as well. I would expect a report probably in September back from the consultant, and then we'll bring it forward to council.
Thank you, Rob.
Further inquiries?
Further to Andy, and the municipality of St. Mary's got hacked 2 weeks ago, and I remember that 2 years ago we updated our hacking software. What's the status of it now?
Through you, Mayor French. We always watch what's happening with other municipalities with great interest in terms of that. You hate to be over confident because it is happening to smaller municipalities, but one of the things that gives us a level of comfort is that we don't do credit card transactions. That kind of puts a big bullseye on you when you start having that type of information go through you. That's really what the hackers want, and if they get into our system, they're not going to find any of that. So just because we don't do that type of payment. So I think municipalities, even like St. Mary's, likely will start shifting to external providers for that, and having none of that information even go through your system ever. That doesn't mean that we're completely safe, but we do have external backups off of our server, and so if we do get hacked, hopefully we will be up and at it again quite quickly.
Furthermore, is the software being updated?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Are there any further inquiries by members? Okay, the next item is statements and committee reports. Councillor Oslach?
Yes, council and staff and myself personally would like to thank Tom Brewer and Logan Graham for the time for over the years they put in for the studio, so the viewers can watch on East Lake Channel 10 council meetings. I would thank them sincerely and for all the volunteer work they've done over the years.
Thank you, Councillor Oslach, and that's true. They've done a lot of work to help us out with getting it out, getting that transparency out there. That's what council's all about, and we're good at that, and I'm proud of the fact that Aylmer's always been very transparent, because a lot of municipalities aren't. So, I mean, they are, but they don't have it on social media or, they do the best they can, but we're just fortunate that we've had that opportunity.
We've been broadcasting since the late 90s on council meetings.
Any further statements? Okay. Report of the mayor. The only thing I wanted to mention is I did get an email today that the mayor of Goderich has passed away. So we do want to send our condolences to them. And other than that, I don't have anything else to offer. Notice of motion. Don't see any. Okay, so resolution for meeting closed to the public.
Apologies, this is moved by Councillor Charlton and seconded by Councillor Barber. That council moves into a meeting closed to the public at 6:35 p.m. to discuss the following matters. The first report that we've got is Director of Legislative and Corporate Services, Report Clerk 3922, respecting a land sale update pertaining to Ames Park, and that item is closed to the public pursuant to Section 239(2)(c) of the Municipal Act as amended, as it pertains to a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality. Next, we've got item 15.2, which is Director of Legislative and Corporate Services, Report Clerk 4022, and that's respecting litigation or potential litigation relating to the waste discharge bylaw, and that item's closed to the public pursuant to Section 239(2)(e) of the Municipal Act, as a subject matter pertains to litigation or potential litigation. Further, we've got item 15.3, Director of Legislative and Corporate Services, Report Clerk 4122, and that is an update on bylaw services, and that item's closed to the public pursuant to Section 239(2)(b), E, and K, as the subject matter pertains to personal matters about identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, and litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board, and finally to a position, plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried out on or to be carried out behalf of the municipality or local board. And finally, item 15.4, Chief Administrative Officer Report CAO 5422, and this is respecting an employee-related matter, and it's closed to the public pursuant to Section 239(2)(b) and D of the Municipal Act, as a subject matter pertains to personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, and to labor relations or employee negotiations.
Thank you, Josh. All those in favor? And that's carried, and we'll take a 5-minute recess.